Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are starting our new chapter today, and inshallah, we'll try to finish it. The important points related to it: psychiatry, behavior, and the adolescent medicines. Okay. So let's start with this first case, which is there in your book. It's a Carrie is a 16-year-old girl. She's referred from emergency department after collapsing at school. On meeting her, you know that she's very thin and with her height is on 75th centile but weight is on 9th centile. She denies any recent weight loss. On examination, her heart rate is 38 per minute and auxiliary temperature is 36 degrees centigrade. She has dry hairs and skin. Aside from being thin, you are unable to detect any other physical abnormalities. Her mother attends from work and confessed to you that she is concerned both about her daughter's weight loss and the apparent obsession with exercise. Which of one of the following is the most urgent investigation? So we are actually dealing the eating disorders problem in the adolescents, okay? And besides the organic causes, like most common are the inflammatory bowel diseases. Psychiatric issues related to the eating disorders are also very common, like anorexia nervosa, bulimia. So we have to cover today the psychological aspect. Okay, so this is the case which is in front of you, and you can see over here that. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's continue. So I have read the case in front of you. That was the case related to the anorexia nervosa, because this is the adolescent girl and you can see a significant decreased weight loss as compared to her height. Her weight is on the 9th centile. Okay, so what is the main difference between anorexia nervosa and the bulimia? Both are the eating disorders. So in bulimia there would be a normal weight or slightly increase in the weight in case of the bulimia. Okay, but if the weight is too much decreased, then most likely you are dealing with anorexia. nervosa case. And you can see over here that you don't find anything on examination except that a dry hair, dry skin, and the heart rate is decreased. So if your heart rate is 38, what do you think which one of the following is the most urgent investigation? So with this heart rate, of course, the ECG would be the most important one, because ECG changes, if it is associated with it, it will tell you about the, the for further management, whether the child is in danger or not, because many electrolyte imbalances are common in this condition, especially the hypokalemia. So that can affect the heartbeat, heart rhythm. That is why the first most important investigation is the ECG, because any arrhythmias can be life threatening, fatal. So that is why we'll prefer ECG over urea and electrolytes. Second most common one is the urea and the electrolytes. Okay. Now, next we talk about which one of the following is the leading cause of death in the people with anorexia nervosa. Maybe you people thinking about that probably the cardiac arrest because of the electrolytes imbalances and all that, but no, because it's a psychological disorder. So the leading cause of death is the suicide. See, so it's actually it's a disease. It's a real time psychiatric disease. Okay, and it can lead to suicide. Now you can see over here, as I mentioned, that in adolescent age, there are multiple causes of the weight loss. Among them was the psychological, like anorexia, bulimia, but we have other causes as well, as I mentioned about the inflammatory bowel disease. Other than that, we have endocrine causes as well. Okay, so there are multiple causes. It's our based on our history and examination, we would going to conclude a point where this weight loss is coming from. Okay, whether it is an organic or psychiatric issues. First case, it's a 16-year-old girl attends clinic with her father who is worried about her weight and persistent fatigue. So weight is about her weight and persistent fatigue. On further questioning, you discover that her periods have become irregular. On examination, you note she also has mouth ulcers and parotid gland enlargement. Her teeth are discolored and she has hoarse voice. She has discoloration over the metacarpophalangeal joints of three fingers on her the right hand. Blood gas reveal it is hypochromic, hypochloremic, hypokalemic, metabolic alkalosis. So what do you think? What is actually the cause of this condition? So in this case, you can see over here the electrolyte findings, hypocaloremic, hypokalemic, metabolic alkalosis is very suggestive of the certain conditions. We also call it as a pseudo Bartter syndrome as well. And among them is the induced vomitings. Okay, so if you are forcefully or induced taking out the gastric contents, that leads to this specific problem. Other than that, you can see that there are some discoloration over the joints as well, plus parotid enlargement. So all will links to the bulimia nervosa, which is another psychiatric condition. So in this condition, what's happened that the child is overeating, and then later on it will going to induced vomiting. Okay, either by stimulating the gag reflex, like in this case she is continuously stimulating, or because of gag reflex she is having multiple time vomitings. Okay, now next question, 13-year-old boy present with the mouth ulcers, and he complains of intermittent abdominal pain and occasional blood in his stool. So abdominal pain is there because along with the abdominal pain, you have a red flag sign that is blood is coming in the stool, and also you have seen that he has lost the weight in recent month as well. So in the 13-year-old boy in the adolescent age, if abdominal pain, weight loss, bloody diarrhea, they all goes favors towards the inflammatory bowel diseases. Okay, laboratory reveals it's a microcytic anemia with thrombocytosis along with the raised ESR. So again, raised ESR and CRP is an indicative of the inflammation, chronic inflammation. So how you will going to decide whether it's a Crohn's disease or it's ulcerative diseases? So when we talk about in the context of the weight loss, most commonly, the weight loss is more associated with the Crohn's disease. Okay, But ulcerative colitis is more associated with the rectal bleeding and abdominal pain. So without history, it is very, very difficult to comment on it, because any chronic inflammatory disease will ultimately lead to the weight loss. Okay, so in the Crohn's, mostly it's a diarrhea predominant. Other than that, you have more extraintestinal manifestations like perianal disease, oral ulcers, and all that. So this picture is very similar to goes into the ulcerative, but because of the lost weight, you can also think in Crohn's. So broadly, we'll keep it in the inflammatory bowel diseases over here, and we will go with the histological diagnosis, endoscopy, and histological diagnosis, and then only we can conclude about whether it is Crohn or ulcerative. But for your exam purpose, if there is a loss, weight loss is there, then go with the chronic Crohn's disease. Okay, that is for your exam. 15-year-old girl presented with 4-month history of tiredness and sleep disturbances, and she was previously a high achiever but admits to having difficulty concentrating at school, and both her performance and attendance have been affected. She complains of dizziness and flu-like symptoms, but physical examination does not reveal any other abnormality. So there was a history of flu-like symptoms before, and then she developed excessive tiredness, excessive sleep disturbances. Okay, so this is a very generalized complaint. Okay, this complaint is very general. School concentration problems, performance is decreasing, so we have to perform diabetic testing for diabetes, testing for hypothyroidism, because it's a very generalized complaint over here. Okay, after excluding each and everything like organic causes like hypothyroidism, diabetes, and all that, then only you can conclude at it could be a chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, so chronic fatigue syndrome is preceded by the flu-like illness, and it is excessive fatigueness, excessive tiredness, excessive problem. That real-time problem is there, and for this, you have to the treatment for this condition is the graded exercises. You have to you know include a small one, graded exercises, gradually increase in the in the exercise regime, you can say that, or the timing of the exercise, or you can say that the strength and all that. Okay, so it's required graded exercise, it's required psychotherapy. So it's a complex psychological issue. Okay, it requires a lengthy treatment. Okay, it's not a 1 day 2 day treatment, it requires a lengthy treatment as well. And for the diagnostic purpose, you need specific timing as well. So over here, you can see over here there's a 4-month history of tiredness and all that. So we'll talk about the chronic fatigue syndrome in the coming up slides as well. Okay, so we have already talked about that the weight loss has a variable causes. Okay, but we always worried about when there is a sudden and unintentional weight loss. Okay, so if your weight loss is sudden and unintentional, then it points out towards the serious illnesses, and you have to take, or you have to go for the immediate assessment as well. Okay, the approach to diagnosis require, of course, that I have just mentioned that most of your diagnosis lie within your history and your examination. At a time when the teenagers are maturing, gaining increasing responsibility for their own health and decision, the approach demands very great sensitivity. Okay, because sometimes the teenagers are lying, they're hiding their points. So that is why it is very important to handle the teenagers very sensitively. Okay, this point is demonstrated in the initial scenario where, despite clear physical indicators that she was collapsed at school, her heart rate was 34, despite she was denying that I have any recent weight loss, and mother contradicted that fact. Okay, so that is why it is very sensitively, or in a manner you have to manage adolescent age. Okay, they are different from the pediatric population. Okay, so now when we talk about the eating disorders, I've already mentioned that most are the two important commons are the anorexia nervosa and the bulimia, and both are in more rare in the pre-puberty children. So it is more commonly linked with the puberty and post-puberty. Anorexia nervosa increases in incidence through mid to late adolescent, is thought to affect at least 1% of the female age between 15 to 25 years. Bulimia nervosa most commonly present in the late teens or early 20s, and over 90% those are affected are also females. So psychological problems are more common with the females, just like the autoimmune conditions. Okay. So when we talk about in general the anorexia nervosa, so we have certain way to diagnose the anorexia nervosa, and also we also have a guidelines related to it as well. Okay, so before first we cover the diagnostic criteria. What is the diagnostic criteria for anorexia nervosa? Okay, self-induced weight loss of more than 15% of the body weight. So if your weight loss is more than 15%, avoidance of any fattening foods, and aggravated by self-induced vomiting or any exercises that can cause anorexia nervosa, intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat, even though they are underweight. So they are underweight, still they have intense fear of gaining weight, abnormal perception of the body image. So what do you mean by abnormal perception of the body image? So for example, I'll just give you a one example for that. That for example, if a girl is like thin and lean like that, but if she stand in front of the mirror, she will see herself like this. Okay, this is called abnormal perception. Okay, so when she stand in front of the mirror, she will perceive, and this is, psychiatric issue. Okay, it's not because of her, it's because of the real time problem. It's a psychological problem that she has a false image of her body. Okay, amenorrhea is also occur in the post menarchal female. So the amenorrhea can be a part, can also associated with this condition. Okay, so this is called diagnosis of anorexia nervosa. You have intense fear, along with that a significant weight loss, abnormal perception, and the amenorrhea. Okay, now when we talk about the other condition, the bulimia nervosa, what is the diagnostic criteria for the bulimia nervosa? Recurrent episodes of binge eating. Okay, so you have excessive eating over here, binge eating, characterized by consuming excessive amount of food within a short defined time span, with lack of control of eating during that episode. Then recurrent inappropriate compensatory behaviors to prevent weight gain, like use of laxatives, self-induced vomitings, binges, and compensatory behaviors occur at least twice per week for 3 months. Self-evaluation unduly influenced by body shape and weight. Disturbance does not occur exclusively during periods of anorexia nervosa. Okay. So, bulimia nervosa is most of the time associated with binge overeating, followed by the compensatory behaviors. Okay, that's all related to the bulimia nervosa. And you find certain, you can see that in the bulimia nervosa, you would have a past history of obesity. You could see patient-induced vomiting like this. After me, there will be a complications of vomitings like aspiration pneumonia. Russell sign, you can see that this is hyperpigmentation on the metacarpopharyngeal joints. This is called the Russell sign. You have dental caries because of the reflux. The gastric content contain the acid. When they will going to come up into your mouth, so acid will going to cause dental caries. And the features of anorexia nervosa could be present. Okay, so that could be present, but it is not necessary. You could have normal weight as well in case of the bulimia nervosa. And if you talk about overall complications of both condition, you keep the both condition as the same. Okay. In the anorexia nervosa, you are avoiding food. In the bulimia, you are having compensatory behaviors for your binge eating pattern. Okay. So what are the problems related to it? Every system will going to involve in it. If you look at from CNS can cause, you can say that cortical atrophy, dental cause caries, aspiration pneumonia, cardiovascularly, it can associated with bradycardia, hypotensions, arrhythmia, cardiomyopathies, gastrointestinal, you can say that. You see in both conditions, the parotid enlargement is common. So you see parotitis is common. So you have observed in the case of the bulimia nervosa that we specifically talk about the parotid enlargement. Okay? So in this order, both in the bulimia and in the anorexia nervosa, you could have parotitis or parotid enlargement, delayed gastric emptying, gastric dilation, constipation, raised amylase, which is specific to bulimia. Renal and electrolytes like hypokalemia because of the vomitings, hypochloremia, metabolic alkalosis, edema, and renal calculi. Endocrine causes of amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea, musculoskeletal cause myopathy and osteoporosis. Okay, hematological involvement include anemia, thrombocytopenia, hypercholesterolemia, and hypercarotinemia. Dermatologically, it causes dry, cracking skin, langu, perioral dermatitis, callus on the dorsum of the head. This is called Russell sign. Okay. So these are the important complications related to the anorexia nervosa and the bulimia. So now you will going to quickly look over this paragraph that after onset, especially in the adolescent age, if we talk about the onset, it is an adolescent age. Predominantly, it is the female will going to be involved. Significant weight loss, extreme cachexia. Often patient deny any associated symptoms. So patient often deny any associated symptoms. Gradually, it will affect all your organ systems. Initial management is commenced in the community setting, but there are a number of indications for hospital admission. This point is important. What are the indicators of the hospital admission? Those are cardiovascular causes that includes if your heart rate is less than 40 when you are awake. So heart rate is checking when the child is awake. Okay. Heart rate is less than 40 when the child. Heart rate हो गया, we talk about it's a one of the criteria ECG evidence of biochemical abnormalities like for example prolonged QT interval associated with your hypokalemias. Most important in the biochemical abnormalities like hypokalemia can lead to ECG abnormalities or prolonged QT interval. The most important investigation, therefore, is the ECG. The other investigation listed will be required, but they are not as urgent as the ECG. Liver damage result from severe malnutrition. Evidence is by raised transaminases. So you could find raised transaminases. The most common electrolyte abnormality is hypokalemia. However, hyponatremia may also result from excessive water ingestion. Urea and creatinine are usually low, reflecting the inadequacy of nutrition. Cardiac arrest is cardiac arrest is the most frequent medical cause of death. It's the most frequent medical cause. Okay, so cardiac arrest is the most frequent medical cause of death among people with anorexia. There is a strong association with other mental health illnesses. Suicide remains the overall leading cause of the death. Feeding is a treatment. Feeding is the treatment of the anorexia nervosa. Can be done against the will of the patient. Where there is a refusal of the treatment, if the adolescent will going to refuse the treatment, consideration should be given with the application of Mental Health Act 1983. Patients who are treated in this way require both consultant psychiatrist along with the pediatrician. So you need MDT, multidisciplinary team management. It is not only the pediatrician will going to manage these babies, these adolescent, because it's a psychiatric issues. So you need to involve the psychiatrist as well for the treatment of the anorexia nervosa. Okay. Now, when we talk about the in general about the bulimia nervosa, so bulimia nervosa, okay. So this is about the bulimia nervosa. Question number 3A, there are maternal concerns about weight loss. Once again, there are physical elements that differentiate bulimia from anorexia. Bulimia is a eating problem characterized by a period of excessive overeating or binging, followed by the self-induced vomitings associated with sometimes laxatives abuse. Those who experience bulimia have also fear of gaining weight, but not all are underweight. So this point is important, that not all are underweight. Okay. Repeated vomiting erodes the teeth enamel and leads to caries. Occasionally scarring or calluses can be apparent. क्या हो गया, क्या हो गया? Just a second. Okay. So we were talking about repeated vomiting will cause teeth enamel erosion and leads to caries. Occasionally, scarring and calluses can be apparent on the metacarpophalangeal joints of the hand, used to induce vomiting, which is called Russell sign. Occur when the joint make contact with the incisor teeth, will induce the gag reflex at the back of the throat. Parotid gland stimulation and enlargement occur in response to binge overeating and excessive vomiting. The metabolic derangements are also very specific, such like pyloric stenosis. Okay. So now we have talked about the two important eating disorders. Now they talk about the pathological causes over here. Okay. The first pathological causes, they are talking about the inflammatory bowel condition. That was the second case. Okay. So they were talking about the patient present with the mouth ulcers and abdominal pain. The condition should focus on the intestinal diagnosis. Mouth ulcer, abdominal pain, and bloody stools can be associated with celiac, but this should be excluded by the investigation profile. But the accompanying blood picture in a 13-year-old boy most likely associated with IBDs. So in a 13-year-old girl, celiac could present, okay, but inflammatory bowel diseases has precedence over celiac, okay. But remember, celiac can present at any age, okay. Even though it is very common beyond 6 months when we introduce the gluten, but it can present at any age. Second thing is that you have a rare manifestations of celiac as well. Sometime, what I was having a patient that he was only having a headache, only headache. So for headache, they came out ultimately that it was the celiac disease. So such a non-specific symptoms can be a presentation of the celiac disease as well. Okay. So that is why they are keeping celiac as a differential, but they are saying that inflammatory conditions are more specific. An inflammatory bowel disease characterized by inflammation and ulceration of the GI tract, leading to a variety of initial presentations and symptoms. Such presentation will lead to faltering growth. So whether it is ulcerative, whether it is Crohn's, ultimately the chronic inflammation will lead to faltering growth in young children and weight loss in the adolescent population. Combination of different blood tests act as the initial screening tools. Thrombocytopenia and microcytic anemia are commonly found with the Crohn's and ulcerative both. Other useful markers include inflammatory markers and albumin. And now you have added fecal calprotectin levels as well in these initial useful tests. Okay. So in your initial investigation, you will also going to check fecal calprotectin level for the inflammatory bowel conditions. The absence of abnormality with these parameters makes the diagnosis of IBD significantly less likely. So these important blood parameters will going to help you out in diagnosing these conditions. Number of factors differentiate between the two conditions, but still the colonoscopy and the examination of histological specimen is a key to accurate diagnosis, but the presence of aphthous ulceration is very characteristic for the Crohn's disease. Okay. Now, last we talk about the chronic fatigue syndrome, what this is actually. What they are saying that clinical assessment needs to exclude other condition because your sign and symptoms were very non-specific. The fatigue, okay, that could be part of diabetes, that could be a part of endocrine causes, other endocrines like hypothyroidism. So what they are saying, hyper, especially if it is associated with weight loss. So they say you should exclude the metabolic and endocrine disturbances, including blood glucose, for the exclusion of diabetes, thyroid function for the exclusion of hyperthyroidism, which are associated with weight loss. These investigations should be undertaken for the 15-year-old girl first, but it is unlikely that any abnormality would be found. There is increasing recognition of the markers of chronic fatigue syndrome. So now there is a recognition of this syndrome. It's a complex condition. See, it's characterized by persistent fatigue that limits the individual's ability to carry out ordinary activity, and it is not diminished by sleep or rest. So this fatigue is not improved by sleeping or rest. This is associated with a range of other complaints as well. So along with the chronic fatigue, you could have other complaints as well, like sleeping disturbances, cognitive dysfunctions, physical manifestations like pains, joint pains, muscle pains. Diagnosis should only be made with the input of consultant pediatrician, with the symptoms should be persistent in more than 3 months. So the duration is also important for the diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. Another possible diagnosis must have been excluded. The National Institute of Clinical Excellence has released comprehensive guidance related to the diagnosis and the management of this condition, chronic fatigue syndrome. So, what is actually important that the cardinal symptoms are severe, disabling physical and mental fatigue that should last more than 3 months. Sometimes you get the recent history of viral or other infection. You have to remove mainly the infections could be CMV or EBV. It's the diagnosis of exclusion. You must rule out the other important conditions like hypothyroidism, diabetes. Treatment, as I mentioned, it requires graded exercises, it requires the behavioral therapy, and it should lies with the social welfare system. Okay, so this is the management for this chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, so now we have talked about in detail about the eating disorders. Now we will talk about the conduct disorders. Okay, so second question is related to the behavior related issues. This is also asked in your exam, conduct related question. So we'll talk about what is, the oppositional defiant disorder, what is conduct disorder. So we'll talk about these things. Okay, so first case is boisterous Ben. Now we'll talk about you are seeing a patient, behavior related issues. Eating is finished, behaviors we are talking about now. You are seeing a patient in the general pediatric clinic. The GP referred a Ben, he's a 6-year-old boy. So whenever you are dealing with the behaviorals, again you will going to see the age as well, okay? So it's a younger boy, 6-year-old boy. So most of the time these behavior related problem starts after 4 to 5 years of age, okay? So it's a 6 years old boy with behavior problem. What was the problem? In the last 6 months, he has become irritable, very argumentative, and he has smashed the doors and other household items. He likes playing football and has long sessions playing his games console. Okay. So what is actually the problem is that over here is that in this case the child is become very argumentative. Okay, argumentative behavior is there, and he also smashing the doors, other household items as well. Okay, now what other things is that you can see over here in the background, his grandfather, to whom he was very close, died 1 year ago. His parents also recently separated. He sees his father once a month. Although he was doing well in school, his work and sport activities now have recently declined, and he also become disruptive in class. Okay. So there is a background underlying trigger as well. Okay, as you see over here, the child lost his grandfather as well. Along with that, parents also got separated. So all those things definitely have an impact on this child behavior, the child psychology. Okay, now we have to exclude the causes. Then we will come to one point. First is acute anxiety state. Okay, so whenever you are dealing with the anxiety state, it will definitely associated with some systemic findings as well. Like for example, when have you have an anxiety attack, you would become tachycardic, you would become very sweaty, you could become very fearful or fretful. So this is not a state over here. They are not talking anything related to the systemic issues. So unlikely this is the acute anxiety state. Now, when we talk about attention deficit disorder, so you can say that he can play a game for a long time. So it means this is not a problem related to the attention. Neither they manage talk about any hyperactivity problem as well. Okay, so very unlikely. Autism spectrum disorders, we already discussed autism in detail, and you clearly from the scenario you can conclude there is no such issues related to the language, related to the interaction. Okay, yes, the interaction in a way that he has now become more argumentative. Okay, now depression. So depression is again, the child will not be so argumentative and what happened in the case of oppositional defiant disorder. So if I'm going to make it simple, oppositional defiant disorders, the child would love to tease other kids, okay? They will going to tease other kids. They will going to do, even teasing their teachers as well. They will not going to respect their teachers. And again, also, as they mention over here, they will be very argumentative. So this type of behavior you will going to find out in the oppositional defiant disorder. But but you will not find anything. Most of the time it's verbal, okay? It's not they are not you can say that they are not giving physical harms, but they become very verbally abusive type, okay? So this is the type. This is called oppositional defined disorders, okay? And these kids are very difficult to manage. School teacher, for the school teacher also, to manage these kids, it's very, very difficult, okay? Now, which one of the following is the most appropriate first intervention? So, always such behavioral problems, you always think psychotherapies are more common first line management rather than with your medical treatment. So, of course, medical treatment would not be effective. And the main training is for the parents how you going to deal with these kids. Okay, so it's just a 6-year-old boy. So the main appropriate first management is will be the parents training how you will going to manage these type of kids, okay? So parents training program would be the most likely first management, okay? Now what have you seen, what change has occurred, okay? Now Ben returns to the clinic 6 months later. Now his behavior has deteriorated and he has been excluded from the school as well. He has set a fire to the local park benches and been in trouble with the police. His mother says that he explodes at home. Now he is become physically abusive. Okay. You can say that he's damaging the properties. Okay. Okay, so now you can observe that the difference. Initially, it was only verbal, okay? He was very argumentative. He was, or you can say that uh, he was using abusive language even with the teachers. He was not respecting. So all was and he was literally teasing other kids. Okay, so that was actual problem, but now the condition has switched. Now he's become more he's damaging the properties. Either he is stealing, okay, or you can say over here, you can see he explodes and he thrown his game controller at his 3-month-old sister. उसने लिया. Okay. When she was crying. So now you can see the difference. Know what this has become now. So when you see the physical, the type of physical damages are occurring, you are damaging the property, you are stealing like this. So this is all called conduct disorder. So now he has converted into conduct disorder. Okay. So now they are saying that you refer him to the camps. So CAMS is actually a bigger term. It includes it's an abbreviation of Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. So in this services, multidisciplinary team peoples are there. It includes psychologists, it includes psychiatrists, psychotherapists, social workers. So many peoples are involved in this service. So what they basically saying that which one of the following CAMS professional is most appropriate for Ben to be seen by now. Okay. So now because it's converted into conduct disorder and it had become so severe, now this child needs medication. And medications can only be given by the psychiatrist. Psychologist cannot prescribe any medication. Okay, so specifically this child at this time need psychiatrist input. Okay, so we have talked about the most important behavior problem in the children. So we have three type of problem. The one is called ODD, the other is called conduct disorder, and third is called personality disorders. Okay, so we have these three important conditions. So when we talk about the personality disorders, okay, personality disorders would be diagnosed in the adolescent age over 18 years. Okay, so if you have such behaviors, as I mentioned, physical abusive type, and the child is younger, then you will call that as a conduct disorder. Okay. So Ben's behavior is outside from the norms for his child age. Okay. And you can see over here, mental health problem present in the pediatric age group are more common than the many people realize it. So it's becoming more common day by day, and you can see over here that is very important whenever you are assessing such disorder. It is very important when you are making a diagnosis, you should know that the contributing possible factors, which is 4 P's, you have to remember, underline 4 P's, which could be the triggering factor, which could be the contributing factor for such behaviors. So it could be predisposing factors, it could be precipitating factors, it could be perpetuating factors, or it could be protective. So what do you mean by this predisposing factors? So what are the predisposing factors? So what are the predisposing? So predisposing means you have underlying chronic illness, physical, sexual, emotional abuse, single parenting, upbringing, socioeconomic deprivation. This all would be a predisposing. What is a precipitating? Like in our case, the bereavement, okay? Parental discord with or without separation. Also bullying in the school. These all will going to trigger or precipitate. So precipitate means that will leads to triggering effect, okay? Perpetuating means you have unsympathetic attitudes and lack of support from parents, family, and other caregivers. This is called perpetuating factors. And what are the protective factors? Include calm temperament, self confidence, good parenting, and support from the caregiver. So this is called protect. So any one of, if it is disturbed, then definitely it will lead to behavioral issues in the kids. Okay. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the oppositional ODD. As I mentioned about the ODD, this disorder, ODD, is characterized by excessive episodes of angerness, aggressiveness, and the spiteful behaviors towards others. Okay, so this is all verbal. Symptoms often start in around age 4, 5 to 6. Age is common, more common in the boys, okay, than the girls. The condition is especially likely if it persists for more than 6 months. Okay, so this is ODD. Okay, so much aggressiveness, so much angerness, and you have spiteful behaviors. Okay, that means you can going to tease others. Okay, other thing is that predisposing factors could be a factor over here. Precipitating factors could also cause this problem. So 4 P's are all you have to remember. Okay, a significant proportion of the affected children and young adults with ODD will later on develop personality problems in the later life. So if you will not going to pick up, then definitely these population will suffer in their adolescent and in their further in their adulthood as well as a personality problems. Okay, so three categories are there. The first one on the top is ODD. Management of the children with long-term mental health problems can be complex and difficult, thus require camps that includes all necessary services that work with children and young people who have difficulties with emotions or behavioral well-being. This work often include working in with both the children and the family. Multidisciplinary team consists of psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, nurses, support workers, occupational therapists, psychologists, mental health work, and even substance misuse worker also be managed by the CAMS team. Okay, so this CAMS is very important. So what is conduct disorder? Now we talk about the other. Okay, so we have talked about the oppositional define. Now you can see in the conduct that you are in the behavior which involve damaging to properties and unresponsive to normal sensations. And again, male predominance are much common. And if you look at what are those conduct disorder things include, you see over here temper tantrums, oppositional behaviors means fighting, argumentation, overactivity, irritability, aggression, stealing, lie, truancy, bullying, and this vandalism, stealing. So, all this will come into the conduct. And the important thing, what they mention in the last, oppositional define is a type of conduct characteristically seen in the younger children under 10 years of age, and it is characterized by marked defined disobedient, and provocative behaviors, and by the absence of more severe dissocial or aggressive acts that violates the law and the rights of the other. So in the simple way, I've already explained how you will going to differentiate in the exam. So if it is causing a physical damage, then you will label it as a conduct. If it is more associated with aggressiveness, argumentation, more with the verbal, then you just include in ODDs. ODDs occur in the younger kids more, 5 to 6 years of age. And later on, after 10 years, if the problem still, more common conduct is more common after 10 years and after 18 years, it will become a personality disorder. So personality is come in the late. Treatment include family therapies, okay, practical social support, rehousing. Prognosis, half of them will, have still have a problem into the adult life. Okay. Mama. Okay. Now when we talk about the anxiety problems, जी बेटे अब वहां जाके बैठ जाओ, मैं खत्म. Okay, 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 right, okay. Anxiety disorders are among the most common mental health, and you can see what you're going to find in the anxiety. अभी वहां जाकर बैठेगी. Okay. In children younger than 12, you can see younger than 12, separational anxiety is most common disorder. So what do you mean by separational anxiety? Separational anxiety is a common finding in case of 12-month kid. Okay. So 12-month kid, if you separate it from the mother, he will start crying. This is called separational anxiety. Okay. Which is normal till 3 years of age. Okay. So till 3 years of age, separational anxiety is considered to be a norm. But if it is beyond that age, then definitely it is a disorder. Okay, so that is meaning by separation. Now, when we talk about the another condition called acute anxiety state, acute anxiety state can arise due to the fear of illness, due to the bereavements, due to the fear of losing control of one's life, losing control of one's life. So, what would happen? Potential factors would again include loss of a close relative or the marital breakup, And you will find somatic symptoms or systemic symptoms like restlessness, fatigue, headache, abdominal pain, tachycardia, sweating, irritability, angerness, oppositional behavior can be an expression of anxiety, but it is much less common. And you will use the antidepressive medication fluoxetine is used for the treatment of depression, is sometimes prescribed for acute anxiety disorder as well, but that is not a medication for ODD. Okay. Now when we talk about the another condition which is called ADHD. So ADHD is comprises of three important factors: attention problem, inattention. Second is the hyperactivity, and third is the impulsivity. So inattention is evident as a short attention span, continuously switching from one activity to another, difficulty in following instructions. Hyperactivity is manifest as child always on the go, who cannot sit still even in the classroom, and excessive talking. Impulsivity in the child is demonstrated as interruption of others, not waiting for their turn in the game. Defined and aggressive behaviors can be associated, but it is not a primary feature of this disorder. So, Ben's symptoms, aggression, and the act that he can sit, play his game console for long periods of time is against the ADHD. Again, if they talk about the management of ADHDs, primarily you need have a psychological, behavioral, educational support, multidisciplinary management. Along with that, sometimes you need pharmacotherapy as well, like methylphenidate, atomoxetine, dexamphetamine is also useful. Exclusion diet has been found to be useful on some occasions, especially in preschool children, where one or two factors, such as specific foods or food additive, appears to be triggering an abnormal behavior response. So management is again complex in the ADHD. Multidisciplinary team management, you need educational support separately, and along with that, medical as well. Autistic, we have already discussed in detail what is the autistic behavior disorders. Okay. It's again problem in the three domains: social skills, communication problems, and you have certain specific atypical behaviors. Okay. So these are the three domains the problem is. Social skills problem is no eye contact. They will not share emotions and they will not have any relationship with their kids. Now, verbal and non-verbal communication, they will not going to communicate neither with the language nor with the okay, so verbal and the non-verbal communication mean they will not either use languages and neither they will not use any other ways to talk. They will not point out, they will not have any other language, okay? Repetitive behaviors we have already discussed. They will adhere to the specific routines. Okay. Like I have mentioned one kid that he always go to the switch on, switch off the lights always. They will go and have a same routines, like they will sit on the specific chair, or they will going to have certain like for example they will go to observe spinning object for a very 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 long time. Okay, so restrictive pattern of interest and preoccupy with the parts of the object. Okay, parts of object, a spinning wheel, as I mentioned. And if a fan is spinning, so they will going to specify on the only the part of object, the spinning part. Okay. Asperger syndrome. Asperger syndrome in the actually how you will going to differentiate Asperger versus autism. So if you have no language problem, so if you remove the language issue from it, okay, so language is okay in these kids, but you see early language appears to be normal, so your language is normal, but you have a problem with more problems with the behaviors, more problems with the other domains. Okay, like social interaction problems are common in these kids. Okay, present is often by a school with behavioral and social difficulties. Okay, speech and language, they will not be so bad like a autistic child. Okay, so aspergers are better in case of language aspect, and they would have more problems with the social interaction. So academically also they will be better in case of the autistic child. Okay. Now we talk about the depression. Depressions in the childhood and adolescence. So depression also affects the children's. Especially you can see over here, it also affects the underage children's as well, and more common with the teenagers. And multifactorial, the cause is multifactorial. You have to recognize the underlying risk factors, and the risk factors are same as we mentioned about the 4 P's. So the same risk factors you will going to. Even you can say that the illnesses like I mentioned, infectious mononucleosis, CMV, and chronic illness can also lead to the depression. What are the symptoms? So in the symptoms, the most important symptom over here is again irritability is there, withdrawal from the friends, family, and even your regular activity. So they will not going to school. Self-critical, self-blaming, they have poor concentration, lack care of personal appearance, changes in the sleep patterns, they also have tiredness, they also have change in the appetite. So depression is like, so prevalence of childhood depression is estimated to be 1% in the prepubertal, while more common in the adolescent age, more experienced by the girls, and depression is characterized by persistent low mood, loss of interest, loss of pleasure, fatigue, and low energy. Childhood depression can have more insidious onset than the adult, and it is characterized by irritability more. So in the childhood, the manifestation of depression as irritability, okay, more than the sadness, often occur with other behavioral disorders. In this case, the boy did experience agitation, poor concentration, and deterioration of schoolwork. However, depression also frequently result in social withdrawals, tiredness, fatigue, and excessive sleep, features which are not present in this case. A child or young person with depression should also be referred by the camps, and they need psychological interventions such as individual to individual cognitive behavioral therapies, interpersonal therapies, family therapies, psychotherapies for at least 3 months. But if those therapies are not responding, then you will going to go for the multidisciplinary team along with the medical treatment like fluoxetine can be given, but it is a last resort. Okay, it would be your last resort. Okay, some terms are important. They ask about the night terrors, nightmares. What is the difference between it? So if you look at it, what is a terror? This is very common in the children between 4 to 7 years of age. Typically, the child wakes from very deep or stage 4 sleep and appears to be very terrified. He would be hallucinating, unresponsive to those around him or her. Usually, such episodes last less than 15 minutes. So, they are short episodes
and the child goes back to sleep with no recollection of the events in the morning. So this point is very important, that you cannot recall the terrors. Okay, it is unusual to find any underlying reason or stress. So there is no any reasons or stress behind it in the case of night terrors. But in the mares, this will occur in the very last stage of sleep, which is called REM sleep. REM sleep is occurring when you are just, before you awake. Okay, so it's the last phase of your sleep. And the child remembers the dream as well, either immediately or in the morning. And underlying anxieties should be sought out in case of night mares. Sleepwalking is also common, most often seen between the age of 18 to 14 years. So we have different stages of sleeps are there. As I mentioned, the REM is the last stage of sleep before you awake, and in which RAM you would have rapid eye movements are there. So see, burst of rapid eye movements, muscle twitches, and heart rate will going to increase. Other stages 1, 2, 3, 4, they are called as non-REM sleep. NREM. Non-REM sleep. So my most common question. Okay. Okay. So these are the stages of the sleep over here. So they ask about what is the difference between the non-REM. It is written over here. Non-REM. What is? Okay. कहाँ रखूँ? Okay, what is the difference between the non-REM and the REM sleep? Okay. Before the difference, I would like to mention, as the stage of the sleep will going to progress, the brain waves will going to be more slow down. Okay. So you can see that in the last stage 4 REM sleep, you would have a very, very low brain waves, which is called delta waves. Okay. And in the initial phase, you would have theta waves. Okay. So the very fast waves are the beta waves, then the alpha waves, then the theta waves, and the delta is the very slow waves. So these slow waves will going to occur in the last stage of the sleep. Now you have to know the difference between the non-REM and the versus REM. Okay. So non-REM and the REM, the most important difference they talk about over here, I'll mention it, the important differences later on. I cannot recall it properly, but they ask one question related to the difference between non-REM versus REM. So I'll share it on the group. Now talk about the ticks. Okay, so tick is basically, when we talk about the tick, it's a problem, transient problems. It's important thing is it's transient. 10% of the children commonly seen in the boys. Onset is around 7 years. Simple tick more commonly seen, and if in the if you add, tick can convert into the torrent. Okay, so what is the tick? So if the tick associated with, you can see over here, what is Tourette? So tick is basically any movement type problem. Okay. So what is the tick? It's a movement issues. Okay. For example, the mentioning over here is that commonly Tourette's association with, especially if tick associated with the voice component. Okay. So you can see if the movement problem, like certain movements the child usually made, if it is associated with the voice component, like coprolalia, obscene words and swearing, echolalia, repetition of sounds or words. So if with the motor component, if the voice or vocal component will going to add on it, it will become a Tourette syndrome. The important factors could be positive family history, the stress, neurodevelopmental delay, but most of the time they resolve spontaneously. You just need reassurance, and whatever the medication, the most important medication, the first line medication, you can use haloperidol in this case. Okay. Another important behavior is which is found in the infants. This is an infant problem. Self gratification disorder. It's just like the masturbatory behavior in the adolescent age. Okay, so this self gratification disorder found in the infants, it's the benign disorder, infantile in the infant age, and dyskinesia means abnormal movements. Okay, it's the form of masturbatory behavior which is often mistaken for epilepsy, abdominal pain, or maybe you think about it as the dystonias or dyskinesias means abnormal movement. Though often called a disorder, but actually it's a normal behavior seen in the early childhood, occur in between the ages of 3 months to 3 years, with the second peak occur in the adolescent age. The exact mechanism is poorly understood, but have been associated with self-tension, boredom, excitement, genital infection, and lack of stimulations. So these could be the underlying reasons for that. But what is actually happening over here? So there is a scenario. You can see a 20-month-old girl. Her mother said she found her arching her back. Now, arching her back, if it is there, this is an abnormal movement. But during arching her back, you can assume probably it could be a Sandifier syndrome due to GERD. It could be due to epilepsy, a seizure-like problem. A muscle spasm is there. But this is abnormal movement, but it is associated with profuse sweating, seesaw respiration for 2 to 3 months, and then the child will sleep, and there will be not repeated in the day. If you interrupt during this behavior, she got very angry, and otherwise she had normal development. So the very important word was she had a normal development. So that is why they will going to call it as a self gratification. There is no history of any vomitings or something like that. So GERD is associated with the Sandifier syndrome. Okay, so that's what they're saying. It's infantile, idiopathic, benign, infantile dyskinesia disorders. Okay, so these are the important behavior related and adolescent related problems are there. Most common one. And if you have any questions, you can ask. We have finished this part.
मम्मा किधर लेटूं? आपकी क्लास फिनिश? क्लास? मम्मा इधर मैसेज तो आ गया। ये तो क्लासेस class. Okay. So how many systems are left now? We will going to now. Okay. So we have done that part. Now we will going to talk about the emergency poisoning. Okay. So we'll talk about inshallah our emergency and poisoning inshallah tomorrow. We'll try to have a class tomorrow inshallah, and we will start at 4:30. Okay. So we'll start at 4:30 p.m. and we will going to discuss the emergency and poisoning part inshallah tomorrow. Okay, so that part we will cover inshallah tomorrow. Then we will going to left with some the metabolic and dermatology part inshallah. So if you have any questions, you can ask statistics questions. This behavior we will going to discuss inshallah on Sunday. Okay. Okay, so let's finish over here. Inshallah, we'll meet tomorrow. Thank you so much. Jazakallah and Allah Hafiz.